All right, today is Thursday, March 7th. And this meeting is to check in on tasks relating to community outreach for Backdrop CMS. We have a list of things we want to do, starting with the website. We know there are issues with the modules, themes, and layouts search. This is issue number 442. It's been long-standing. I have a patch I need to test for that. I have a rework of that page that needs to go live. Even it's just design, like implementing the final designs that can probably go live even without the search stuff. If the search stuff patch works, that can go live too. So we've got a bunch of kind of to-do follow-up tasks there on that. Homepage demo link. This is number 476 and 192. Nate, I don't know, I think there's a to-do there for you on that, something about getting us a new API key for Tugboat.
Yeah, I actually did get I set up an all new API key and tried to correct it, but I still am just having some mysterious problem as to why it's not working. I also updated the Tugboat binary file and did a whole bunch of things trying to get it to work, because it continues to work locally, but not on the server. And that's why I turned my attention to replacing the servers because I'm like, there's something wrong with this one. So yeah, that's why I found that issue for Justin to make a server that has PHP 7 instead of our ancient version, because I have a feeling that might somehow be related.
Okay. So he has another task. We were just talking about this before we started the recording, to set up a new server for our Civi CRM instance that we want to let Luke play with. And so I recommended using that as like a test for like the server we'll move our other sites onto, but he thought maybe they should all be separate anyway. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that they're going to be different. Like backdropcms.org, with all of its subsites, it's more complicated than other sites, I think, especially like with the way we have separate domains for like the update server and for the installer and things like that. Even though they all ultimately use the same site, you know, like it's more complicated, I think, than we would need for Civi.
Okay. And then we also have like our API site and our forum site, and I don't know which server those should live on. I'm guessing maybe the same place as Civi. Those would all be safe to have together, and then we just keep backdropcms.org by itself.
Yeah, it would be nice to separate them. Right now, all of our properties are all in one.
Right.
The API site and the forums and the translation website, all of it. Yeah.
So long term, you want a separate server for each one? Like a little Linode maybe for the
long term, but on the other hand, we haven't had any scaling problems thus far, so that might be unnecessary at this point.
Okay, so I think the only, I mean, I guess we're going to have authenticated users everywhere except the API site, maybe. So
no, even the API site, because that's where we put like change logs.
Yeah, but still, that's kind of editorial only, not like every user. Whereas like the forum in backdropcms.org could be everyone. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, well, let's just keep an eye on it, and if we have issues, we can separate them. But
yeah, API. In API, there's only a few people that have access, right? It's Jeff and Wilmot, I think.
I think anyone. So ideally, anyone should be able to log in if they have an account on backdropcms.org, but we haven't got that part working yet. So if you want to make changes there, we can add you or activate your account or whatever. So it's not like limited intentionally. I just feel like the need for people to log in there is much lower. Although I have been spending some time on Drupal's API site, and like the comments are actually quite helpful in many cases. Yeah, so I don't know if once we get our like single sign-on thing working, we should just open that up for people to comment too.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. I found comments on the API site for d.org useful as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's many cases that come to my mind now.
Yeah.
So this is blocked on the single sign-on, you said?
Well, Yeah, because we don't, it gets really complicated when you're like, okay, well, what's your username and password for the forum site? What's your username and password for the localized site? What's your username and password for the main site? And if we could just get it so that your main site login was used everywhere and your main site profile was copied everywhere, that would be so much easier to manage, at least from the, like, what we're giving to our end users perspective. And so we have the bakery module and it sort of works.
Yeah, I remember that we had certain issues. People were getting logged out, or they had to log in the main site to get it to work. I can't remember. It's been a few months now.
Yeah, I don't remember either. And I think like we ended up like leaving it on for like the API site, but off for all the others so we could test it. And I don't know where it ended up like with exactly what the problems were, but we should maybe put that back on the agenda.
Just to clarify things, the way that API.v.org works is that there's very little user-generated content, right? It's being automatically passed from the doc box in the code, right? Like functions and stuff like that.
It's a combination. There's editorially created documentation, like how to port a module, but then there's also the automatic generation that is pulled from doc blocks.
So how to port a module is not in the user guide in v.org, right? Not.
Right, because it's code. So user guide is really sort of like clicking instructions, and anything that's code related is on the API site.
Fair enough.
Okay, so maybe new server will fix our tugboat issues. There's also an issue here for adding a block on backdrop.cms.org somewhere that will promote the pre-release version, so that when we get to releasing Backdrop 1.13, we'll have the preview version and we'll be able to put information about the preview version somewhere on backdrop.cms.org so that developers can try the new version before it's out, and hopefully we'll then get feedback on any potential issues with it. I don't know where that should live. I think we have issue for it number 499, but we should maybe try and look at the site and figure out where we think it might be most visible to people without distracting from other things that might be more important on those pages.
The way some applications like desktop apps work is that people can opt in for a sort of like pre-release channel where they can update. If we can figure out a non-intrusive sort of like way to have people notified about that. And now that I say that, the dashboard and the updates thing seems like a really nice place, like the block with the updates that we're trying to get in. So if we, yeah.
That's a good idea. Just so you guys are aware, on the dashboard issue, one of the recommended blocks, I think Takuma might have recommended this at the very beginning, was to put a like news, like a backdrop.cms.org news block there that would automatically pull in a feed from our site. And so that way, if we had something that needed to go out to everybody, we could just write a blog post and click the like promote to dashboard button or whatever, and then it would automatically show up on everybody's site. So we could have something like pre-release for Backdrop just land there, so every time you went to your dashboard, you could see information about it that way.
Yeah, I think that WordPress does the same thing. I've seen it, and I was looking at so Classic Press had a first release a couple of days ago, and I was looking at the changelog, and it was saying like carefully curated set of sort of like news. It's not like there's a heaps of news going in there. It's just important things like a pre-release coming out and us needing the help of people to test it.
Yeah, CiviCRM does something similar too. I think it's generally a good idea. The downside to that is that we would need to include some kind of parser engine. Is that why you were making a stressful face, Nate? Something that can ingest a feed and display it.
No, I was doing code review.
Yeah, so I was just gonna think like the way that Drupal 7 core worked. It had like aggregator module as part of core where it could ingest RSS feeds and create items, but we removed aggregator module from Backdrop. And now we have like a views thing that outputs RSS, but I don't think we have anything that ingests it in core anymore. So if we want to do something like that for a dashboard block, we need to create a way to do that. And we might decide like maybe RSS isn't the right thing to do. Maybe we want like a special JSON feed and we could write something custom that would pull that in. But it is something that is not already part of core. So we need to figure out how to handle that. So I think there's a follow-up ticket for the dashboard that's like, figure out how to do this. But I agree that would be a fantastic place to put information like, hey, here's some news that's relevant to you and the Backdrop site you're running. And maybe one of those things could be new releases of Backdrop coming out. So yeah, I think we should figure that out. But
another really cool thing was the way that Classic Press was presenting a list of features that people could vote on. Like, I think they had it on the main site, or was it within the product? I found a screenshot and I posted it in one of the issues. So there's like the 10 most wanted sort of like features, and people can sort of like upvote things. It doesn't mean that all things get meshed in core, but it sort of like gives the core team a sense of what the community wants more, which is along the lines of the thing that we said that we would pick like 2 or 3 tickets for each release and we would like focus on them.
I think that's a great idea to get more information from end users if you actually put the question right on the dashboard. So that could be a good thing where
maybe
the same thing where if we integrate with the news thing, we could have like a news post that had like an embedded poll in it somehow, and then the site could pull it in.
Yeah, maybe a link to a poll that was on the main site, perhaps, because maybe the polling within the dashboard is a bit too much. But yeah, a reminder that people can vote for like sort of like we released 1.13. Now it's a good chance for you to vote for what you would expect for the next version in 4 months. But yeah, it was really cool to see that, you know, people that. So the first thing that I thought is that certain people that are registered already in b.org do not necessarily have access to or accounts for GitHub, so they never see the issue queue. It would be a great way for them to voice what they expect. Yeah. And as I said, users sometimes end users expect things that might not be core worthy, but at least we'll get an idea of what people expect.
Yeah, I love it. It really caters to like us trying to reach a better audience of voices. So I love it.
Yeah, well, proudly invented elsewhere. Yeah.
I added those 2 items to the agenda for the weekly meeting under dashboard, so we can do a recap there. I know they came up in this meeting. It was good to talk about them, but I don't want to lose track of stuff we want to do with dashboard. So
yeah, and just a reminder with the dashboard that it's in really good shape now. There's a few things that need polishing, like with some strings, some labels of some options have been copied from other blocks, so they don't make sense. So these need to be fixed, but it's in a really good shape. So we shouldn't delay. Like, we should get it in as soon as we can, and because it's based on blocks, we can iterate. I mean, we shouldn't delay it further than 1.13.
Yeah, I think it's so. I'll go through and look at your issues. I did some work on that last week. We can talk about that in the dev meeting, though.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Borg integration with MailChimp. So I added a note here, opt-in for pre-release emails might be another thing once we can get the MailChimp integration set up so that we can have emails that we can send out before the release comes out as well as the ones about afterwards. User location map. So we have this contractor search where someone can find someone else that specifically has said they want to appear on that page. It would be good to create another page that's like a user location search and also let people opt in to appear on that page as well. So if you don't want people to be able to search for wherever you are, you should have the ability to opt out of that search. But yes, we should make one. Single sign-on, I added those two things here too. The one between all of our properties is important, but also we mentioned the integration with GitHub. There's some stuff related to module maintainers getting special access to their nodes on backdropcms.org we also want to take care of. So things to get back on our priority list. All right, blog posts. So I think, Gregory, we have one of your blog posts that's ready to go. It's the one that encourages people to add their involvement with Backdrop to their Drupal.org profile. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that the only thing missing is a screenshot. I don't know why it somehow got removed, but other than that, like if someone can provide a final review, I'll add that screenshot and we can publish it.
So that might be a core issue where if we have an unpublished node, we should make sure garbage collection does not remove that.
Do we have a ticket for that?
Okay, I don't know. Nate, do you remember if we ran into this problem before?
I wasn't paying attention.
An unpublished node, its image might be cleaned by garbage collection. Does that sound familiar?
Oh, it does not sound familiar. And that shouldn't happen. If the node is created, then it should be permanent.
Huh.
It does happen that if you create a node, you start creating a node, and then you don't save the form for a long time, then it might get cleaned up.
No, there's definitely an unpublished node.
But as soon as it's saved, even if it's unpublished, it should be marked permanent.
Okay.
There was another ticket. I'll find it. I'm not sure if it was D7 or D8 related, but I think it started as D7 and it was never fixed, and then it was supposed to D8, and that's where it's at now, where files that are uploaded in revisions do not ever get deleted afterwards. Like they remain in permanent status, which is sort of like related, or the opposite of what we're discussing now. I literally just slacked the link to that issue to a colleague of mine just a couple of days ago. So I'll try to find that, and I'll see if it's an issue for Backdrop. If it's for D7, it most likely is for us as well.
You mean in deleted revisions?
Yes. So the title of the issue in d.org is deleting an entity with revisions, and file or image field does not release the file usage for non-default revisions, causing the file to linger.
Huh. Okay.
I'll see if this is an issue with us, and then I'll file a ticket for it. If so, yeah. But yeah. Anyways.
Okay. Other blog posts on the way. Gregory, you have your fantastic comment that we talked about last week. Adding locations to your profile. That might also be something we could put into the add to Drupal.org post. I don't know if you think that's worthwhile to group together. But it could also be separate. It's like we have a shortage of content sometimes, so maybe just a separate in the queue would be good. Then we have community spotlights. I had a meeting, I think it was last week, with the folks at Facet, and they have started reaching out to everybody on the list about getting interviews done. Tim, you're shaking your head. What is that? Not related? Okay.
Unrelated, sorry. Reading stuff.
You're like, no, not interviews. And I'm like, uh-oh. So hopefully they'll start drafting those posts for us too. And they were just going to create kind of a backlog of content, probably in Google Docs for us, but then we can have them put them into the website if we approved. And then they would just sit there unpublished. And then that way, if a week went by and or 2 weeks, and we had this meeting and we didn't have blog posts, we could just publish one and change the date. And then that way we'd just be able to kind of crank out all of this community spotlight stuff as needed. So I thought that would be great. We have a bunch of other ideas for stuff we should put on the blog. A post about security and the security team might be good, especially now that we have some experience managing security releases on behalf of contrib maintainers. That might also be a good thing to mention here. Posts about the Conservancy, posts about integration with external services, posts about Backdrop minor versions. We also have a tentative idea from a Tim post for maintaining modules. I don't know if you've gotten any farther on that. It's all right. We've got plenty of other stuff right now. So, but yeah, I think we have a lot of good ideas. And thank you, Gregory, for actually making some things happen in the last few weeks.
Well, I know I don't have time as well. It's like there's more things to do than time for them to be done.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Every now and then I find myself like explaining something to someone and going, ooh, that would make a good blog post. And that's how my blog posts end up getting written, is that I just took something that I already wrote and then I like repurpose it. And I think that's what you did with your comment. So I appreciate that. And I hope that anyone else, if they write a comment or answer a question or send an email or something and think it would be good fodder for a blog, I think that's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, it's not only with blog and outreach stuff. Like I was reviewing the dashboard thing again, and when I saw the way that we do a DB query for selecting the number of comments per node or that, I go, oh yeah, that should be like in the core comment thing. It should be a helper function so that other things can use it. And then I spiraled into trying to, anyways, yeah.
Welcome to the rabbit hole.
Yeah, rabbit hole. Just exactly.
Okay, so after blog post, our next item is Backdrop Planet. I think I added aggregator module to the code base, but it's not set up yet. I wanted to set it up locally and make sure that it doesn't explode and that it doesn't look terrible. And then I think there's, we've got to figure out how to get that information displayed in a way that makes sense. I think we talked about putting it on the mentions page so that we would have both the aggregator items and the mentions in the same place, because until people opt in to the aggregator feed, then the mentions are sort of what we have in place. So it'd be good to get those things sort of intermingled.
Is someone leading that? So is someone working on that?
On
the Backdrop Planet thing?
No.
Okay.
Do you want to work on it? I mean, you have a lot of
I don't want to. I just don't have the time for it. There's so many. Yeah, there's so many other things that I have committed to do. So
I figured like adding it to the code base was pretty easy because I was in there anyway. But then I was sort of committed to working on the like modules, themes, layouts thing instead. And so all I did was add it to the code base. So it's on my to-do list. I just feel like the importance of getting aggregator set up is lower than like fixing the search problem. So, yeah. But that's a much bigger problem. So like every time I start on it, I feel like I don't get it done. Where I think like if I did the aggregator thing, I'd get it done. But we'll see.
Clarification on the aggregator thing. You said you've added the code already?
I added the module
so it just needs
to the code base. Right. I don't think it's been deployed.
Right. Oh, okay.
So
maybe this would be a good chance to say like backdrop.org stuff. I'm not even sure how I could contribute, you know.
Yeah, so there is a public GitHub repository connected to the backdropcms.org issue queue. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know what the permissions on it are. You might have to ask for write access. Mm-hmm. But you can definitely file a pull request if you want to add any code. But if you don't want to add any code, you can clone that repository, and somewhere we have a like automated sanitized backup for backdropcms.org. I can never find it when I need it. But there's a ticket somewhere that is in the backdropcms.org queue that's like, hey, we should have one. And then somewhere in that ticket, it's like, okay, we have it, it's here. And so every time I need to find it, I go to the ticket and I figure out what it is. But there's a way, I think it does like a nightly or a weekly backup where you can get a version of the database that doesn't have any important information in it. And so if you had the database backup and the code base, you should be able to marry those two things together and do some testing. Like if you want to do aggregator locally, that would be the way to do it.
Yeah, I keep saying that I will bookmark that page and I keep losing it. And then my go-to person is always Jeff. Or I ask in the Gitter, and Jeff is the the person that replies mostly is like.
Oh, Nate found it. Oh, that's easy to remember. Sanitize.backdropcms.org.
Okay, I always thought it was a subpage, but it's a.
There's apparently a password. It's probably in the ticket.
In other words, this is really easy, right? No problem.
Yeah.
It might be sanitized for all we know.
Do we have like a how-to or like if you want to contribute to
We should
theme.
have one. That would make a fantastic blog post.
That's another one for the list.
All right, how to contribute. This is going on my today list, not my this month list. Okay, I'm not catching a plane today, guys. Although catching a plane last week was great because it gave me a chance to work on dashboard module. It's like free time when you're like on the plane, so you haven't counted on that time for anything else. Okay. So many things. Okay, let's see. Planet, aggregator, etc. Newsletter. We sent a newsletter. We accidentally left the title on it saying like 111 was out instead of 112. And the folks at Facet were like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Well, we won't do that next time. So next time we have a process for like sending tests out first and making sure they get signed off on before the newsletter goes to anyone. But I was really happy that we managed to get it out. So thank you for Tim for writing up the blog post, and then Facet was able to just kind of take the most important parts from that and throw them into the newsletter. They are also planning on devoting some time every month to making sure not only that we have like blog content, like the whatever it is, spotlights in the queue, but also if we need more help with like, we're gonna send a newsletter, can we have them QA it? They're totally available for that. They said they were open to Tim if we wanted to let more people like have access to MailChimp and send those things out more frequently. They're fine with that. So they apologized for being our roadblock and offered a couple of solutions for trying to help us unstick ourselves when we need to get newsletters out. So I think in general, once a month is a good timeline for newsletters. If we can get content organized once a month, that's the big thing. So
it's a question. How do people get on the newsletter list?
On backdropcms.org in the footer, there's a
contact process.
No, it's like a newsletter sign up thing. It's a sign up for our newsletter.
Oh, it's big form.
Yeah.
All right. With the Stay Connected thing.
So that's one way anyone can sign up, but we also want to get this like integration with MailChimp hooked up so that anyone who creates a backdropcms.org account would automatically be opted in unless they choose not to get it. And then that way we would reach the audience of all the people that signed up for our site too, which might be good. Okay, let's see. If you guys have any ideas for what we should put in the newsletter this month, I'm open to that. Tim, I don't know if you want to look at your draft that you'd gotten organized for January and see if that might be something we can send. But that might be a good, I think you're muted.
Yeah. Okay. I just looked at the newsletter and it's like really bare bones. The newsletter's out. Here's a couple of features. What I had drafted like had a couple of sections. Like the idea was to provide links to get people into the forum, to get them, events that are coming up and stuff. And I think if we had a couple of categories like that and did it on a regular basis, it's a way of sort of feeding people into other things. So yeah. I think a lot of the content in the draft I did is probably dated by now, but we could just update it with fresher content. So
okay.
That would be something I think I could do pretty quick. So.
Okay, that'd be great. And I think we have like in MailChimp, I can give you access to it if you want. We have a template that has like all the basic style, and you can just add like however many sections you think we need, just add to the template. And then that way the next time someone creates one, they'll say like forum information or whatever, we can put like a recent forum post or what have you. I think it's just because it's not in the template, we don't think about it. But since you're thinking about it, we should include it. That's great. All right, videos.
I wasn't on the newsletter, so I just went through the process of signing up, which is why I was asking where it was linked from.
So horrible.
No, no. Although I mean, you know, random bits of information. I looked for it under the, you know, about us stuff at the. I looked in the menus under things like news and support and stuff. So
Okay, we might want to put it more places. I definitely think like the support section is good. Maybe the resources page we should put as a little sign up form there.
oh yeah.
Yeah, about might be good. We could put it in the sidebar on the about section even if we wanted. Will you create a ticket, Luke, for putting the newsletter sign up form in more places on the site?
Sure. Is there an archive? That's the other thing I noticed is having not seen, like, you know, I realized you were talking about it, I hadn't seen it. So so what did I miss? And is there an archive anywhere?
That would be a good idea. Maybe we can make a ticket for that too, to put up a page on our site that I know you can like iframe in a MailChimp archive pretty easily. So we should just do that so that people can find it. Maybe just have like a newsletter page that has like the sign up form and the archive stuff in addition to what's in the footer. That would be good. And we could have that under support.
Okay.
As a standalone section, that'd be good. And for those of you who want access to the sanitized database backups, Nate put the username and password into the chat for today's Hangout. The username is in fact sanitized. The password is more complicated. So go ahead and have a look there if you need it. All right, let's see. Videos. Yeah, we need more videos. I did one like a couple weeks ago, which was pretty exciting that I did one at all. But there are a bunch of other things that we could be showing off about Backdrop. I think these would make great shareable, like via Twitter, via newsletters, via blog posts, wherever we want to do it, and make great content for people. So anyone has anything cool they're working on they want to show off, I think that would be great. Tweets. What's going on right now? Let's see. Mid-camp is coming up. I think it's in 2 weeks. 20th, about.
Yep, 2 weeks from yesterday it starts. So,
would it be worth promoting any of the Classic Press stuff that's going on right now? I'm not super in tune with that.
So yeah, it's a good question. Like I've been a little bit unsure how far to go. I've liked some of their posts as Backdrop, but like I wasn't quite sure if we wanted to go so far as to retweet them or. But to me, it makes sense.
Yeah, I think if you see anything that demonstrates like reaching out to their user base in a way that matches like us reaching out to our user base, we could be like, this is a fantastic idea. We're going to look into it too. Or if you see something that is like a really slick user interface, you could be like, wow, we could learn a lot from this. I think there's definitely ways we could tie those together, especially if they're having a bunch of, you know, cool stuff happening in their world. I think just getting our name involved in like, hey, if you're interested in usability, like maybe you should be interested in Backdrop, or like if you're interested in having your voice heard, maybe you should be interested in Backdrop. Just kind of like somehow interacting with that. I think you're right that there is kind of a sensitivity where like we don't want to be like mixing our brand too much, where we're now like promoting that, but not anything else is a little weird. So I would say use your judgment. That's why I brought it up. I'm like, I don't really know. What do you other people think?
My concern too is that, you know, if I get too vocal sort of supporting them as Backdrop, is that are we doing it just to be sort of anti?
Yay, forkers.
It's like, do we just jump on any forker bandwagon, or are we legitimate, you know?
Yeah.
Have we thought this particular thing through? And that, I guess, was my concern. I mean, I think there's some truth to that, and it makes sense that we're at least supportive of people, but how far we want to go in promoting it, that's a difference.
Yeah. I mean, I would think, I'm not super into what's going on in the WordPress world in general, but I would think that if like WordPress did something that was really cool that we should learn from, we should comment on that. And if Drupal did something really cool that we're supportive of, we should comment on that too. So I would say it shouldn't be like, it looks like, oh, we only support forkers. But I think that if you see something that's really cool, like Gregory noticed they're like asking polls, something that's a new idea, I think we're definitely, that would be something that we could weigh in on, but I don't know, like, because I'm not following WordPress, I would miss the stuff that they did. So it is a little careful. We have to be a little careful there to make sure that it's fair.
I have an insider. So Driver is a WordPress fellow. So yeah, he often just sends me links to things that are happening, and he likes to compare how things that we implement are closer to what they do in WordPress, and he always like, hey, we do pretty much the same, and he always gives me ideas about how we can improve it. Might not be doing it directly, like in commenting in GitHub, but eventually ideas get through.
So real quickly, I've been trying, although with really mixed results lately, at least once a week to schedule some tweets. And one of my strategies is just to go in, is to look for fresh stuff, but also to just go in and find things on the website that are resources that are buried, and like, hey, remind people they're there, or to pick out a recent comment on the. I mean, I also feel like using the Twitter account to remind people that the forum is there, and also to just sort of highlight questions people are asking. It's like I could just answer the question, but to me, like, it's more valuable to throw the question out to the community and hopefully draw somebody new in to the discussion. So that's one of the ways I think about using Twitter. And if there's any feedback on that, let me know.
Sounds good. All right, let's see. Anybody have any ideas about where we should be promoting Backdrop that is not backdropcms.org? No. Okay.
So I feel like we just kind of run through this agenda and we sort of see this every week, right? And like get to it, and it's like boom at the moment. No, I'm not thinking of anything. I feel like making that a highlight for this, especially for this outreach meeting. It might be helpful to switch up the way we do this a little bit and to like pick a topic and say like, okay, next month let's focus on this. Like, how do we get out into areas that we're not? To me, it's like if we got a discussion going about it, then I think I would come up with ideas. But when we just hit it on the agenda, it's like there's nothing there right then, and then we move on.
Well, we have a little bit. Well, I guess we've got 10 minutes. I don't know if that's enough time to start a discussion, but I like the idea of taking a focus every week, and maybe rotating. So, like next meeting, maybe we focus on outreach or something, and then, or mentions or whatever we want to call it. And the weekend after that, we focus on video content or something like that. Right. I think would be good. But just to brainstorm right now.
Well, except that there's some other things that might be more pressing, like some of the events we've got this week. That's the only reason I mentioned this.
Okay.
But we're running out of time.
Okay. Well, let's put a note here that next week we're going to set aside some like discussion. Maybe we should add like a discussion to every agenda where we can have something specific to talk about. Okay, next week we'll talk about other places we should be promoting Backdrop.
I would sort of frame the topic as like, how can we get Backdrop into other, other things? Like, I don't know. I mean, one of the things, this is the kind of thing I used to do a lot of. We might just go out looking for people who are blogging or writing about CMS, open source CMSs, and just ping them and say, hey, have you taken a look at Backdrop lately, and just give them some, right? Or those kinds of things. And I don't want to, I'm starting the discussion, but my point is to frame the discussion for next week as how do we get Backdrop into places, talked about in places, and mentioned in places that it isn't.
Yeah. So at the risk of being distracted by the latest shiny new toy, the CRM stuff that we were talking about, wraps into that, because the whole idea of CRM is precisely that, is to track your conversion funnels and systemize it so that you're not just kind of randomly shooting at the things that jump to you, but say, okay, here's how these areas are converting, or evaluate different strategies for getting messages out and seeing what the results are, and that kind of stuff. So I'm anxious to get into that, because I've done like a lot of that for big corporate clients, and I'm hoping to be able to leverage a little bit of that for us.
Good.
Yeah, that would be great. Well, hopefully we'll get that cert up in the next week or so, and then we'll get to start playing with it.
So the CVCRM that we were discussing like at the beginning of the meeting, was it to actually set a CVCRM instance for our use?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Makes better sense now.
You could probably remove the birthday party from the agenda. Again, it's almost 3 o'clock, and I'd like to. I wonder if we could just sort of wrap up or lump upcoming events together and sort of strategy. We've got a few of us are going to be at MidCamp. I'm excited that I will be going to DrupalCon now, and I know Jen and
Really? Oh, cool.
Yeah, I hadn't planned to be, but as of the last week, things came together. And I'm just wondering, like, if we want to talk a little bit about how to use our time at these upcoming events. And I'm really curious, Nate and Jen, if you want to use time at DrupalCon, like what's the political mood right now? Are we downplaying? Like, go ahead.
Tim, do you have backdrop swag?
We have.
Jen and Nate are going to be there, aren't you?
Yeah. And we can bring the t-shirts and hoodies and stickers.
Right.
Yep.
And the way that I've done this at previous DrupalCons is I bring my suitcase like completely full of backdrop stuff, and then just wheel it around with me every day at the conference.
Okay.
And then that way, like, we don't have a booth that's like advertising. We're just kind of like, hey, like, we have stuff if you want it, that's fine.
Right.
I know that we're not allowed to speak about backdrop at DrupalCon. I don't know how they feel about BOFs. I felt like we had 2 BOFs at the first backdrop where we announced it, which was like Prague, I think. And the first one was totally fine.
Right.
And then the second one, they asked us to remove the calendar.
Okay. Got it.
So I don't know.
So I mean, getting a sense from you on what, like whether or not we could do a BOF. I mean, another opportunity is to just do a happy hour that's completely informal, right?
Yeah.
We just tweet about it and say, on Wednesday night.
I think that would be good. We could even put that on the calendar. We did that in LA, and it was pretty successful.
Okay.
Pizzas and drink.
Yeah,
Pizzas and drink. Work all the time.
I remember that. So I, just thinking to be about being creative and like what we're doing. Are you speaking at DrupalCon? And something else?
Who?
Jen, you.
Yeah, I'm going to talk on theming.
On Drupal theming, okay. How about Sprint Day? What are your plans? To be sprinting on backdrop, like visibly?
Yeah, so my usual plans for Sprint Day is to like sit at a table and backdrop stuff, but not necessarily like try and use any of the resources. Just be like, if you're interested in a backdrop, come sit at my table. But like that's kind of my only overlap with the other Sprint stuff. Room.
Okay. Good. Well, we're also both going to be at MidCamp, so we can talk a little more about it there. And is there anything more? Do you know what your plans are for MidCamp yet? Like travel dates?
Yeah, we'll be traveling on the 19th and then home on the 24th. So I think there's sprint days on Saturday. So we're definitely doing sprinting on Saturday.
Okay, so you're going to stay all day Saturday and leave on the 24th.
Yeah, we'll leave Sunday.
We often drive back on the sprint day, which means we leave early in the day, and I'm thinking about trying to stay all day. So maybe leave on Sunday as well. Anyways, we'll move on.
That would be something good to tweet about, promote. Otherwise, we're going to have to sprint on Saturday. Sort of thing.
Sure, and you plan to be sprinting on backdrop on Saturday, right?
Yep.
So we can tweet about that. Okay, good. Any other ways to leverage or to plan for, anything else we should plan for mid-camp.
I could use some help with the bar in Seattle.
With the what?
The bar night in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to figure out like where we're going to put that. On tonight, we should probably take a look at like what the official parties are and try not to conflict with them, and then do something either like the first night or the last night or something that there's something else going on, and then we need to find a place and call them and make sure it's okay if we just have like a random group of people or if they're going to be like swamped.
Right.
I remember last time we did like a bar in a hotel and that worked out pretty well. So maybe something unofficial like that, but it's hard to know before you get there and see it. So I think last time what we did is we picked a day, and then when we got there, we looked at the place, and then we picked a location and we announced it. So that might be good too. So I don't know if anyone's looked at the schedule for Seattle in detail yet, but
No.
That might be good to get started on.
That's a good idea. I mean, I think, if you post something for Wednesday or plan for something Wednesday or even Thursday night, you could, arrive on Sunday and start figuring out where it's going to be and just let people know when it is and to watch Twitter for the location.
Yeah, I think it might be me that's echoing. I'm trying to plug in.
If anybody has other ideas on how we can leverage our presence at like DrupalCon in an unoffensive way, I'd be curious to hear it.
There's an event coming up in Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
I think 27th and 28th of April. It's just a camp.
Mm-hmm.
And I filed a paper like for a half-day talk, but I'm not sure if it's going to be accepted or not. At some point, I slacked something on the official Drupal channel for Australia and New Zealand. Nobody said anything positive or negative. So there was almost no reaction, but yeah, we'll see. And this sort of like was 2 days before the announcement for the end of life for D7. So I'm not sure if this has stirred things up enough so that, maybe if I could phrase the title of the talk something, because it was something along the lines of 4 years of backdrop or something like that. But if it was sort of like D7 end of life is coming, so is D8 the only solution or something like that, maybe people would be more interested. But yeah, I'm not sure if it's happening or not though.
Yeah, I have a Google ad campaign set up. I haven't actually been running it because there's no credit card on it, but I've been watching like the value of terms like Drupal end of life, and it shot way up from being like $10 to like $50 in the last 2 weeks.
Makes sense.
And I'm like, dang it, everybody noticed that that's valuable. Now we can no longer afford to advertise in that.
Okay. Should we wrap it up? And
yeah, let's go ahead. We've got another meeting to get started. I love your idea, Tim, of focusing on other things every week. So we'll try and do that. Let's wrap this meeting and we'll do the developer meeting. So hopefully we'll see you there. Hey, everyone.